Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, everybody.
I'm like, what do you mean we didn't do the intro? Oh, yeah, that. It's a
been a minute.
morning. It has been a morning.
I wonder. Nice to see everybody in here. Just out of curiosity, let me see if I can find. Here we go. There now
we
we're
go.
official.
All right.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
All right. You talk for just a second.
Okay. It's been a wild morning. Anybody who tried to get their Missouri and Arkansas blocks this morning knows there was, a little hiccup. But
it's been fixed.
And if you didn't try, you missed it. So it's fine. But thank you, everybody, this morning for being early birds on.
Yeah.
We got it sorted out. If you didn't get what you needed, go back into your library and you'll find it there.
Yeah, we got it all fixed, I think.
Yeah,
there were a couple of little goofs. Technology, it really is. Like, if you've been watching us for, the years that we've been doing these lives, I will tell you, technology, it gets the best of us so often. Like, you'd think we'd have it all down, but every time I think we've got it, then, it just nails us again. It's like, no, we're going to mess things up for you again. So I'm glad that we're here. Thanks again for joining us. I'm really excited. So we are at the halfway point for the Quarter Millennial Quilt Sew Along. So it has been a mad dash to get here. I cannot believe that we're at 25. And also I'm like, we have 25 more to go. Like, we have so many to do, but it's been awesome. So we have a bunch of the blocks here today. I want to talk about the quilt sew along overall. I'm going to show you the new blocks. I want to talk to you a little bit about kind of how we get to the point of these blocks, and then a little bit about putting them together. So I've noticed a few questions up there. If you've got questions, then Audrey's in the background and she'll pop comments up later when we're asking questions. We'll try to get your questions answered. If we don't get your question answered and it seems like we're kind of going past that, go ahead and put it back in again, because it's hard to keep track of all of those comments when there's a bunch of them. So feel free to ask your question a couple of times if we haven't gotten to it. Okay. All right. So do we want to start with this week's blocks?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes. 23, 24, and 25.
Okay. Yes. So 23, 24, 25 is what we did. So technically we were supposed to do 2 this week, but we were like, if we get to 25 and not just push it right into the middle of 25 and 26. So let me put you down in my chaos here. Okay. So the new blocks, did I disappear them already? Oh, here they are. This is them. I disappeared them. Okay. So here are the blocks for this week. Not that. Okay. So here is Missouri, Arkansas, and Maine. Okay, so these are the blocks. Interestingly enough, I did not plan to do a star week, but we ended up kind of with a star week. So that's what it is. I also think it's interesting that this is the only one that's called a star. So this is like a simplified mariner's compass. And this one is called Ozark Trails, which I really like. So kind of funny that they ended up that way. Missouri Star looks an awful lot like Ohio, which we have our little stack of blocks here. If I can find it. Whew, there's so many. We've done a few, you guys. There's Ohio. Okay, so this is the Ohio Star. So the big difference between these two is, one, this is a small one because Ohio is a smaller state than Missouri. And the other thing are these points. Excuse me. So these points are in 2 fabrics. Excuse me. In this one, where they were only 1 in here. So we did 2 here. So this one is paper pieced a little bit differently. So if you've been following along with us, these were paper pieced and then sewn on. These have to be done in 2 sections. So we paper piece this, we paper piece this, we sew them together. So it's a little bit more of a complex kind of foundation paper piecing. And hopefully if you've been coming along with the paper piecing, this is an easy jump to a new skill in paper piecing in general. So I've been really happy to be able to share a bunch of this stuff with you and, have you learned stuff along the way? You've got something for me, Hawk.
I have an interjection, and we're going to switch back to the front camera.
Okay.
All the way back at the beginning of this, if you were on Make, you might have seen a comment from me saying, "Oh, we're going to use a whole bunch of different techniques. Paper piecing, we'll probably do like 4 or 5 blocks with paper piecing, so don't worry if that's not your jam."
Just kidding.
And then, especially considering so many of these blocks are going from being squares in their traditional form to being rectangles,
Yeah.
there was almost no other way to address those than to go for paper piecing.
Or the teeny tiny ones.
Or the teeny tiny ones.
Like
right.
for example, like the Vermont one is this guy here, and this one we put together with templates, but a lot of people converted it to paper piecing because it was easier because it's smaller. So there are reasons why you might want to use it. So I'm not trying to force it on you all the time. But
while we are obviously giving you guys fun challenges every week with new techniques, it does seem like the fallback technique for us, for Teresa, to solve construction issues is to go with paper piecing.
Yeah.
So you're going to see more of it. It's going to happen. Thank you for coming along on the ride. And
I think a lot of people have figured out that paper piecing is really helpful to do things like the little complicated blocks, or even just very precise piecing when it's small. Because when you're dealing with little bits of fabric, they're a little squirrelier. And I think there's an assumption that if you're doing foundation paper piecing, that it has to be for like one of the big like legit kits, the big huge quilts that are all paper pieced, or like Pride and Joy does some really beautiful paper piecing stuff. But those are images that she's trying to create like a whole big picture for you. And these are like little snapshots. And oftentimes it's really just a basic quilt block that we're putting together in a way that will make it a little bit easier to do that. So can you pop down for just a second, and I'll talk about the Arkansas block too. So this is the Arkansas block, and this is a good example of that, in that this one, these could be pieced, but they're so little, and to get them really accurate and not lose my points, it's just easier to do them paper pieced. So this is something that if you wanted to figure out the construction, you could do this and make these little pieces that are 1.5 by 3.5 or whatever they are. I think they might actually be like 3/4 of an inch wide here. So they are little. And that's what I did for these. I did want to show you while we're here. I'm going to show you this. So we've talked a little bit about block construction and how we get there. And I just keep chugging along and making more stuff and figuring it out as we go, because I had a wild hair while I was recuperating. So I didn't get it all figured out before we started. So what I wanted to show you is how these blocks come to be. You can see the difference in the size here. So this is our finished one. What happened when I made this one the first time, I really loved all the fabric, so I redid it again. But what happened with this is it actually finished at 6 inches. So there's definitely some work that goes in. You'll notice that all of them will have at least 2, sometimes 3, because I'll do it once. I'll figure out, oh, that didn't work. Like all of this, my points just came to the edge. And I was like, okay, that's a problem. Let's redo that. So we did it here. This is a great one. So this is this week's blog. And at this piece, I did not fussy cut, but you are encouraged to fussy cut a piece for here, because I think it's really fun. And then you could kind of, if you chose a piece here, you could figure out what your color combinations were with this one. And then this is our Maine block, which I think is really fun, and is based on the fact that Maine is a very coastal place. So Mariner's Compass was what I wanted to do, and we used a simplified version because it's a 6-inch square, and that would be crazy. So there is a like the 12, 24 things on there. So there is an actual Maine block, and you'll notice that sometimes we use like a Missouri star or an Ohio star, and then sometimes I just use random blocks. And so the Maine one is just, it was just random based on the qualities of the state. There have definitely been some of those. And then sometimes there's the state ones. So Maine had a state block that I saw the block and I really liked it. And I was like, oh, that would be really fun. And I thought, well, it's really big. There's a lot of pieces to it. And we have a 6-inch. So I thought maybe I'll do the same thing that I did with Connecticut, which that's from a Connecticut star. And I just took one arm of that star basically. And that became our Connecticut block, which I know a lot of you difficult. Sorry. We have updated the pattern. So if you need help, I'll let you know. Or just let me know and I'll help you out. But anyway, so I was thinking, oh, we'll do a quarter size of it. And can you do the down camera and I'll show them what we thought about doing? And then once I pieced it, I was like, they'll hate me forever. And it's not that cute. So
yeah, 1/4 of that whole
that's
block
so
wasn't
better.
cute, and that is way better.
Yeah, this was just a lot. And I was like, oh, we could talk about curve piecing. We could talk about applique. We could talk about all sorts of things here. And then I was like, nope, let's do this one. So this is the one that we stuck with, which I appreciate. So anyway, those are the blocks for this week. This one, and this one. Okay, so all this little star bit. And here we go. So 3 different sizes too, which is kind of fun. Way to keep it exciting. All right, what have we got for questions?
Okay, I'm going to go back to the front camera.
Okay, I'm going to keep
There we
my
go.
pile
Great.
of quilt blocks here.
Mostly, okay, how can you turn the instructions into paper pieced instructions? That's a tricky question.
Yeah, so really, if you're confident with paper piecing, you can totally do it. There is some things that have to get figured out. So like, for example, the Missouri Star block is a good example. So when we did the Ohio Star flying geese, we just did it as one template. When I'm doing it as the Missouri Star, we have to do it as 2 templates. So I should have, do you have the pattern there for it?
We can show this, right?
Yeah,
sure,
totally.
It's fine. Coming down. There we go.
Okay, so this is the template for one of those flying geese. Whereas if these were one piece, you would just have this as a single pattern piece.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
3.
It would be easy.
It's easy. But because we have these multiples, so that's where it starts to get a little bit, excuse me, trickier to get the pattern to translate to paper piecing. So it really just depends on the pattern itself. So like this one would be an easy enough one to figure out how to paper piece this, put these on there, put this on there, and you would just draw those out. So you could take the pattern, draw it out to the finished measurements, add a 1/2 inch to the pieces you're going to sew together and figure it out. It is just some figuring out. And really just deciding on what can be sewn together. Like we know we can't piece this whole block as one piece. We would piece this quarter and then we'd make 4 of those and sew them together. So sometimes you can do it as one in one fell swoop. This was one that we could do that as one fell swoop. So we could start here, add this, add this, add this, add those. And it was one piece. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because basically the pieces stack in a meaningful way.
Yes.
Otherwise, and that's stuff that like we've had to figure out along the way, especially when we're moving from like a traditional block pattern. I've watched you figure this out, and if you wanted to change it to paper piecing, you actually have to you have to process that. Now, if we issued a template for a pattern, I suspect that that's a big jump ahead in the paper piecing. Right. So you might just be able to basically paper piece the template.
Which is what people did with the Vermont there.
With Vermont, right. So, and on some level, we did part of the work, but then you're still going to have to think a little bit about order of operations so that you're not cornering yourself, I guess is how to put it.
Yeah. And just try it out. That's really what I'm doing a lot of. And like, you'll see like this is my 25 blocks, but there's probably 60 blocks here. Because I just tried new things out and then I'm like, oh, I didn't really like the way that worked. I didn't like that fabric. I didn't like this. So don't be afraid to just try things out. Use the fabric that is hiding in your stash that you don't like and try things out and figure it out.
This is a really interesting question. I would like to try and cut the fabrics on my Cricut Maker. Any suggestions?
Ooh.
Okay, so obviously the patterns are showing up as PDFs.
Oh, right.
And the drawings inside of the PDF are vectors. Which means that if you are familiar enough with file formatting, you should be able to re-export the PDF that you downloaded from us as a CGV file.
CVG.
Yeah, CVG file.
No, SVG.
SVG file, sorry, SVG file. And then your Cricut should be able to turn those vector shapes into cutting paths.
Right. Or just creating like the ones that don't, because a lot of them don't have templates. So then it would just be putting in those cut sizes. So when I say like you're going to have the fabric and then you're going to cut them to this size, that cut size would be what you would put into the Cricut or the Scan and Cut or whatever to get it to cut that. That's, yeah.
Aspirationally, we would love to also be releasing those files for everyone. And one of the other things I know we are talking about internally is like with the quilt coat pattern, a lot of folks are using, I keep looking at the wrong camera. A lot of folks are using the projector systems for, especially for garment patterns now. And at some point we will release the files that'll let you use the projector with the,
because I think they're the
well.
same sort of files.
It's basically the same sort of file. That's correct.
So lots of different ways of doing it, and really you could absolutely do it that way. You could just figure out the measurements and then put them into your system. So like I know I'm not familiar with the Cricut one, but I do have the Brother Scan and Cut, and then that has an online like pattern drawing application that you could put in the measurements and actually have it cut out that way. So you could do it, I'm sure. And it's because we're doing one block, you don't need a ton of each piece, which would make it pretty easy. Yeah. There was something that you mentioned that I had a segue from, and I can't remember what it was now. I don't know.
There's one other question from the very beginning. And it's talking about labeling. In the original Sew Along library, your library in Crinkle Dreams, there is a PDF file that has a list of all the state names that you could trim out, and you're going to see, like, we have, it's hard to see on here, but like you can see that there's a little label pinned on this block, this stack of blocks. So that's a way. We know that at least a couple of folks over in the Dream Team community are taking the time to embroider extra information onto all of their blocks. And we think that that is super fun. Whether that's, the date that they joined the union or
the two letter abbreviation. I know a lot of people are going to do that. I think that's what I'm probably going to do. And then there's ways of doing it. So like we said, some people are actually embroidering the block and making sure that it's within the actual block and not extending into the seam allowance at all, so it won't get cut off. Always a 1/4 inch seam allowance. But then you can also do it in the sashing if you want to do sashing, which we will talk about. And part of that, I have another idea of being able to put it on the back of the block. So
we're gonna break into this conversation.
I would like to segue back just a half a second. I remembered what I was going to say about the patterns. So on the patterns, every time, and this is something I just want you to remember, because we talk about things behind the scenes and I don't always get it out to you. So in the patterns, I always tell you what the size of the block will be and what the name is. If sometimes I've named them myself, and then sometimes they're a traditional block. And then I tell you what size fabrics you need and then what size to cut them. I always tell you to have a little bit more fabric, or try to always tell you to have a little bit more fabric than you actually need, because I really do want you to starch or use something like this is what I use, is the Magic Premium Quilting and Crafting Spray. And I use that and I spray all of my fabric, let it soak in, do all the pressing, get it nice and flat, and then cut my pieces out. And that does make construction a lot easier. And it also makes your blocks more accurate. So if you do all of your piecing and you've got a good 1/4 inch seam allowance and all that stuff, and then at the end your block is ending up a little bit small, if you are doing your starching at the end, that will do it. So that will kind of shrink it just the tiniest little bit. So we want to make sure that we actually starched at the very beginning. So there are a few things we've had, the people have talked about their blocks ending up short. One is to make sure that you have a 1/4 inch or even a scant 1/4 inch. And that's easy enough that if you use a 1/4 inch foot and then just tick your needle over, like 2 bumps over there, then you'll have a scant 1/4 inch, which will give you a slightly bigger block and won't really change the look of it. The only time you would need to be careful about where things are hitting is when you're doing points. And then sometimes that is going to be, like that happened in the blocks yesterday, is that some of them, Like one side was a 1/4 inch and one side was a little smaller, but I made the points match because that was the important part. So that sort of thing you can get finicky about. But moving your needle over just a tick or two is helpful if you use a thinner thread. So I tend to use an 80 weight thread for my piecing, which makes it smaller, and that fold over doesn't have to go over the thread. It seems like just kind of a silly little thing, like how could the thickness of your thread do anything? But when you have a bunch of seams, that tiny little bit adds up by the time you've gotten across the block. So being able to do that. The other thing is when we're piecing this thing together, if we do it the way that I want to do it, you'll be able to kind of make up for some of that. So there have been people who be like, it's finished at 8 1/4, not 8 1/2. And I'm like, shh, you're fine. Don't worry about it.
And that makes me nervous, because I know that there's math that's going to have to compensate for that at some point, and she's got ideas.
Yes. I have ideas.
Yeah. So you want to talk about ideas?
All right. So somebody asked here, what is the best pen for writing on the blocks? There are a couple, I will say that there are a couple of arguments about that. So Sharpie can work, but sometimes it can run. So depending on the fabric or the fiber content, I guess, it can bleed out just a little bit, which isn't quite as nice. Microtex pens, I know people use those a lot. They use those on fabric. Do I have any? I have a green one. Or Micron. Sorry, Micron.
Oh, gosh, I was wondering where that went.
Yeah. I stole it.
May I have that back, please? Thank you.
So I have a few of those. I just used that the other day for something. So you can definitely use that sort of thing. There are actual fabric pens. Most of the time, what you're going to need to do, and I would suggest that you always do it, is that you press it with a good hot iron, and that will kind of cement it in there and make it so that it doesn't bleed. But then I would always check it on. So try it on a scrap of fabric, write your name or whatever, get it wet, all of that stuff, see what it does before you actually put it on your block. Okay, so until you figure out what you want to do with the labeling, you can definitely just use the little paper labels that we've given you. So, all right.
Related topic, and I was reading, so you might have covered this just now, and I missed it. Also, we mark the fabric in the process of creating the blocks, and you use, typically for this project, you've used the water soluble, but there's also air soluble, and there's also heat removal ones, right? Could you kind of generally go over pros and cons of those three?
Yeah, that's a good idea. So we have permanent pens, which is what we're talking about, is marking your block for, posterity, so that you can say what the block is for the state or when it got introduced into the Union, that sort of thing. But then there's also marking that we need to do on the blocks and when we're tracing things out, that sort of thing. So those I want to use a non-permanent marking pen. And I really prefer the water ones, which I don't have sitting right here easily today. But the water soluble one, the blue one, is what I use the most. It's from Clover and it works really well. That one, though, you have to be careful because if you heat set it, you will kind of set the ink into your fabric and it won't come out quite as easily, and you'll definitely have like a little bit of a halo. So I try not to mark on the fabric anywhere that it's actually going to be seen in the block. Try to always mark in the seam allowances. You can also use water soluble or the air soluble ones. This one is the Magic White marking pen, and this is from Taylor Seville. I'm going to change the camera so you can see this. So this is from Taylor Seville. This one works on, let me see, here's a red. Let me see if this will come up so you guys can see it if I do it a couple times. So it's odd because you can't see it when you first do it, and then it will come up white. This is a friction pen, which a lot of people like to use. I don't like to use them anywhere that it's going to be seen because I've definitely had them come back on my quilts, and that's really very disheartening when your marks come back on your quilts. And then there's so this one is water soluble. This one is heat soluble. Here's a little pencil. Hawke's finding all of my marking tools. I appreciate it. You can also use a chalk marker. Like there's all sorts of things you can use, and it really just depends. So I don't think you can see this because it's pretty light, but this comes up and I use it on dark fabrics. So this would be the other one, which you probably can see, which is the chalk marker. And it's pretty good, but it tends to smudge a lot. So I don't use it very often. I tend to like this one a lot better when I'm marking on dark stuff. So that's the actual marking part of it. When I'm tracing things, I sometimes trace with a pen, but I'm going to cut that off. So try not to put anything like, you know, a gel marker or something in your fabric where it's actually going to stay. We want to make sure that that doesn't happen. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that's that we're gonna put this. I know you just covered this, but the horror story about this is that a quilt got shipped to a show via UPS, and the UPS truck went through a cold patch.
Yeah.
And when the quilt showed up to be hung, all of the heat removed markings were all back again, all over it.
Yeah. So that's sort of the horror story of it. I will say, like most of us, we're not sending quilts off to shows. I have very rarely done that. But I do have quilts that I've made that are really important to me. And I have one of them, the Dignity quilt that I did. We used a friction pen to mark all the stitching lines on that so that I could follow it with the sewing machine. He drew them and then I stitched them. And then when we put them in storage, because we were on the road for a year, when they pulled it out, all of those green marks were back. Yes. So that was a little bit
to the best of us.
So that was a little bit depressing. I can iron it and they disappear, but they are not gone. So that's the thing, is that the ink doesn't actually go away. It doesn't wash out. It's actually still in there and can be kind of reignited, for lack of a better word. All right.
Okay, this is going to go all the way back here. I'm going to show this question. Great. All the way back to Pennsylvania, which I think is 3.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So there was an update to that pattern.
Mm-hmm.
The first time we released that pattern, the center strip was too wide.
Yep.
It needs to be, I think, from 6.5 down to 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
So all you need to do to fix that, if you made the block that size, is to change the one seam,
which is what I did too,
so that it collapses the center section from 6.5 to 4.5, and then you'll end up with the correct size block with the correct layout.
Yeah.
So great question.
Good question.
It's a little tricky for us to let everyone know exactly what blocks get updated, because obviously we're doing our best to get the block patterns out right the first time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it didn't work.
If we have to make updates to the pattern, which the Pennsylvania one, it came in that night. I changed it the next day. I changed it right away. I posted it on Facebook. If you've already downloaded it, it's really hard for me to get that information to you specifically. So just so you know, I do always post those updates, and we've only had a handful of them, but I've posted them on my Facebook group and the Make with Teresa Coates one. And then I've also posted it over on our Dream Team community for the Quarter Millennial Quilt there. So when we've had little oops, like last week, it sent the wrong email and said you were getting the week before's blocks, but it was actually going to link you to your library. So there's definitely some issues that come up. We try to post it in those places so people will see it. So if you ever have a question, posting it in those like community forums is really helpful, because you're probably going to find a post about it. Or you can ask the question, like the Pennsylvania block was long enough ago that, you know, most people have done it and forgotten about it, but you could definitely post it there and we would all tell you. So can you do the top down camera and I'll show you what I had to do, because I did do all of these blocks, the Pennsylvania blocks. I think I did 3 of them, and I did them the wrong size, and I wrote it that it was supposed to end up at 8.5, and then I made them and then they ended up at 10.5 like everybody else. So what I did is I ended up taking out one of these seams. I chopped off the middle and then I sewed this back on. That's all I did. Okay. What I think is interesting is when I did it, I clearly cut a little bit too much off, because I'm about 1/8 of an inch short on this block too. So I may remake this one before I get to the end. But that's what happened with that one. All right. What other things we got?
I think we're basically caught up on general questions. Thursday is also our favorite day, and also the first 3 hours of the morning are
our least favorite day.
Basically Coffee-fueled panic.
Yes. That's pretty much what it is on Thursday morning. It's just some crazy. Yeah, because like the thing is that it can't really be automated the way that we did it because technology, and we're new to this technology of using a system behind the scenes there. And so we end up kind of having to do a lot of it kind of by hand, I guess. Uploading things, moving things here, connecting this, putting that there, moving a link here. Yeah. So there's lots of stuff. So the other thing about the patterns, there was something I was going to mention and now I've forgotten it. Hopefully it'll come back again. But every week, so we release the patterns and then we release a blog post. So every week there's a blog post and that is over at teresacoates.com. And there is more information and pictures from our travels there, things that I've loved, historical, things that have happened there, really interesting facts. I've learned a ton about the states, I would like to say. So it's been a really fun project for me because I feel like I learned a lot visiting all of those states, and then now kind of getting to go back and research the history and write blog posts about it, and then go dig through my photos and find pictures from there. It's been really fun. So feel free to check those out. So if you ever need the link to the video, the tutorial, they're on YouTube, but there's also a link from the blog post as well. So I include a bunch of information about the quilt block itself, a link to the tutorial, and then there are quilt shops that are in that state that either I have been to or I know that they're good quilt shops. So all of that information is in each blog post. So if you're going somewhere, say you're going to go visit Tennessee, if you go to the Tennessee blog post, you'll have a bunch of stores that you can go visit. I will say Missouri, because we lived there, I think has the most quilt shops, and I had to kick a couple of them off because I was like, that list is too long. Like, there are a lot of quilt shops there. It's true. All right. Did you want to talk about putting it together now?
I think you should do that.
Okay. So this has been a little bit of a topic over on the Make group, and wondering, okay, so can we start putting this together? How do we start putting it together? And then realizing that it's a little chaotic, which is kind of my jam. If you just sew them all together. So it can be a little, chaotic, I guess. And I'm not using the same background fabric and everything. If you wanted to use the same background fabric and everything, there would be a little bit more continuity with it. But I really want
I think
to
the scrappy
mix it
quilts
up.
are great. Don't take that as a critique of scrappiness.
No, because that's what I'm doing. It's scrappy, scrappy. And I've got white and I've got slightly off-white and I got kind of cream. I've got all sorts of colors in here and I think it's going to be lovely. But butting them up to each other might not be the look that you want. So people had started talking about adding a sashing to it. Well, when I laid out the quilt itself, I laid it out so that it went into, we found out, a 58 by 60 inch square.
Originally, it was supposed to be a 50 by 50, and somehow. The math ended up, it's still square-ish.
It's still squarish.
It's close. Yeah.
Okay. So this is how we laid it out. So this is the original idea. Okay. I will say it was very fun. Just after this started, a lady emailed me and she said, I thought all of the blocks were actually going to be solid colors and not crazy like this. I was like, oh, sorry. So this is much simpler looking. So this way it all lays out here. We have a space for our flag, and then we have an empty space right here. I have this one empty that you could put in a label for your quilt, or you could do something for the territories. And there are 5 territories, and I'm going to make a little block to mark those. So otherwise everything fits in here nice. Well, when we thought about adding sashing, all of a sudden this grows. And if you add a 1/2 inch of sashing in between all of these, this grows by 1, 2, 3 inches. So it gets 3 inches wider everywhere. And because this isn't just put together as, the same size blocks.
It's not a grid.
It starts to become a little scary is what I will say. It was a little scary for us. We were like, oh no, what do we do about that? So I did some finagling. Do we have the printout of that? I feel like it was somewhere. No, that was.
I do have the sashing one.
I think that might be it. There.
We go.
So we figured it out. So originally, in your files, you still have this one. So if you have a Crinkle Dreams library and you've bought the Quarter Millennial quilt, you have this PDF that has all of the blocks and what their measurements are. So as you're going through here, you can mark them. I have a couple of things I'm going to add to your files, hopefully this week, might be early next week, that will tell you which blocks we've done, which sizes they are, and then you can start kind of mapping this out yourself. Okay, but at this point you can kind of map them out because we've got 25, but half of them are ready to go. All right, but this way it worked out. And then we decided to add in the sashing and see what happened. And it works okay, but there are a couple issues. And I'm just going to use my pen to kind of mark them. So what happens, because this isn't a grid, so on this direction, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks. So this part is total gridded, but this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So all of a sudden now we have a little 1/2 inch goober right there. Okay, so we're going to have some spots.
I have an idea.
Sure.
You want to show close up here?
I can try.
Let's try this.
It kind of distorts
Try
it,
this,
but let's
Cam.
give it a try. Okay, so what ends up happening is that we have holes in our quilt at places where it isn't going to come together perfectly evenly. All right, so I'm working this out for you guys behind the scenes, but it's going to work out. These will end up being places that you could put a fabric that you really like, a really patriotic fabric, or I have one that's like all these different state names that I'll probably put in places like this. There's
or
some
if
really,
you live in Washington, D.C.
yeah, Washington, D.C., all sorts of stuff. You could put in whatever you want in those little places. I feel like they're good filler because a lot of us have bought novelty fabrics to do this with that you might want a piece. This one here would be like 2 by 3, I think. So this would give you a nice place to be able to add a little flag fabric or, something.
Or more of your sashing fabric.
More of your sashing fabric if you
Can
wanted
work.
to. Totally. It'd just be little solid blips. And I would probably quilt these in as pieces that are actually, novelty fabrics, because I've got a lot of them. And I love all the novelty fabrics. I think they're super fun. So this is how this is going to go together. So when I started thinking about this and trying to figure it out, I realized that the easiest way for me to do this, because adding the sashing in here is a little bit complicated, and it makes doing the whole thing, it makes it all really floppy. I don't love floppy fabric, which is why I starch everything. So adding in all of that doesn't sound as much fun to me. So I thought, what if I just did a quilt as you go technique? And then I realized I could do a quilt as you go technique and use the original map. Did we cover it up? Yep. Use the original map, but do the back side of all the blocks the color that it is here. So for instance, let's see, so this one I put on my little map here that this is Ohio. So I would have my Ohio block wherever it went, or down here somewhere. The very bottom? No. I'm gonna have lost it. There it is, Ohio. So this is my Ohio block, or this is my Ohio block. I haven't decided. I might make another one, who knows? But this could be my Ohio block. And then on the back side of it, I would use a version of a red fabric that I like. And I would do a little bit of quilt as you go. So that's what I've done with this one. I just used a white on the back to see if it would work. So basically this is my 8.5. Yep, my 8.5 inch square for Mississippi. And then I put some batting in here and then backed it with white fabric. And then I quilted it. And at the end, I will sew these all together with a quilt as you go technique where we sew the sashing on to both sides, bring it over and stitch it down. I will show you how to do that in a tutorial, because I feel like this is a technique that if you wanted to do this, so if you want to add sashing and you want to add quilt as you go, which again, I'll reiterate, this is your quilt, you do you, okay? I am not trying to tell you what to do. But if you want to do it this way, we can actually start building it out pretty soon. It's a little blurry, they said.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
From the top down?
Yeah, I'm not sure there's anything we can do about that at this point. StreamYard may be compressing us some.
Let's see.
And that will probably just make that worse. because that
That's
camera
focused at a certain
is
level.
only focused at the ground.
Right. We can't push it any further away. So that's what I'm thinking is that if we build these blocks, then we can piece them together. So right now you have this piece, and then I added this one, I think just as an image in the group. So I'll add this one as a file for us in the Crinkle Dreams library that you've got. And then as we put these together, what I've tried to do is figure out, because this isn't a grid, we're going to have to put them. So you're going to get to learn how to do partial seams too. So we're going to do all the things. So by the end of this, you will have earned a master's in quilting, I think, because we're going to do a whole bunch of things, and I love it. So what I did is I worked through the quilt here. I broke it up by pieces that can be sewn together. So I will give you this because at some point we can sew these together. We can sew these together. We can sew these. We can sew all those together because they match.
They're like sub assemblies.
It's sub assemblies. And then as we go, we'll add more. And so I actually have the whole process of how you're going to put it together, because you're going to get these together and then you'll put these together and then you'll put these together, but leave a partial seam. So we'll kind of keep progressing as we go. This is where we'll start, and I'll send this out pretty soon when I've got the tutorial for the sashing done, because that's how you would put these together, unless you don't want to add sashing. And if you don't want to add sashing, just you can sew these babies together. That's totally fine. Then as we go, so I'll send you a nice clean one, and this will work really easily. I'm going to put a code down here, and then you'll be able to put in your blocks as to which ones they are, and then be able to start sewing them together if you want to. All right. And I think that will help a lot in it's a little bit of, sometimes it's a little bit of chaos, but this will work really well. So you can piece these pieces. I'll show you how to put them together in partial seams in the next step with this. So we don't have to start piecing anytime soon, but I know I have to get it all figured out sooner rather than later. But this sort of idea of a map is really, really helpful. And so I started filling out mine, then I scribbled stuff out. So I'll print it again. And then we had, I have to call her out, Laura. I wrote her name up here. She emailed me and she figured out what all the state sizes were and which ones we've done and which ones were upcoming, which is really super helpful. So I'm going to kind of use this idea to create something for you guys to share so that you can have a record of which blocks they are, which ones are done, and then where you want to put them on the quilt itself. So I feel like there's some ways of putting it together that are kind of fun. Like when I started looking at this and I was like, oh, like Virginia and Mississippi could go right next to each other, or Virginia and I think Louisiana. Yeah, Virginia and Louisiana could. So you could do that sort of thing. This one, I was thinking, oh, it could be New York and Pennsylvania because they're near each other. So you could do something where like states that are neighboring are kind of near each other, or just go hog wild with it and put them wherever. It's all up to you. For sure. All right. So let me see.
Okay, to answer another question here, let's do this. What's the finished size of the quilt without sashing? The answer is that it is 58 inches by 60 inches.
Yep. Oh, hi, Kathy.
Awesome. Great question. And certainly slightly different than we had originally thought with 50 by 50. But still basically a square. Okay, this is a question. Could you use fillers also to get to the largest block and then put normal sashing? Okay, the largest block is Alaska, and that's 16 by 16, and there would be 50 of those. So that would be a quilt that you could use to tent your house.
Yeah.
So probably not.
Probably not. What would that end up being? How could you divide 50 by 50 in something that was like,
oh, like a grid?
Yeah, because I'm like 5 by 10.
5 by 10, but that's not cute.
But I can't think of anything that's divisible
yeah.
other than that. So yeah, so 5 by 10 is what you could do, and if the biggest block is 16 inches, you'd have a 160-inch long quilt, which, Angela, I would not put past you. But what I might be more prone to do is just piece it together with the partial seam stuff. I think it'll look really beautiful. And I think because we're dealing with blocks that are 2.5 by 2.5 up to 16.5. Like that's a huge amount of difference in the size of the finished block. So obviously
You could
it would be,
absolutely herd some of the smaller ones into another 16 by 16 chunk.
like I said,
Have fun.
you could do this, Angela. You are so clever. Yeah. I'm always amazed. So when she gets that figured out, you email me. Okay.
when you did the sashing version, tell us again.
So I did a 1/2 inch sashing.
Right.
I finished a 1/2 inch, which is not very big. I mean, it's the size of that. So this would be
this like this. So they would be like that. But then
so you would have a sashing that these would bump into each other, and it would be that wide between all the blocks. Which I think gives you kind of a decent idea. So I looked at a 1/2 inch. You could actually do anything. What would end up happening is that those holes in the quilt
get bigger.
Yeah. So these holes that we were talking about here, these would just expand depending on how big you made your sashing. So adding a 1/2 inch gave us little holes in here. And if you use like an inch between, you would just get bigger holes that you'd have to fill. It's nothing wrong with that. It would just be a different look. I like the 1/2 inch. I feel like it gives it a nice break between the blocks without it being a design feature, really. You know what I mean? It's not going to call out to you as, look at the sashing. But that's also a place where we're talking about, like, how would you label it? So, so this is one thing. So like Angela is one who has done the embroidery on each block. You could do your sashing and then put the letters in here. And especially if you did a little bit wider sashing, you could totally do that. You could do a little applique of some sort on here. What I think I'm going to do is, because I'm going to put them together like this, and then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to either embroider, if I can get my embroidery machine fixed, or I will just use a fabric safe marker and write on the back the two letter for the state. So like this is Mississippi, which would be MS. And I would put an MS on the back here. And then when you look at the whole back of my quilt, like I was showing you with this, so this is what the back of my quilt would basically look like with all of these quilted. And then there would be the letters on each of these telling which date they were. So you wouldn't be able to tell from the front, but you'll have easy access to that information on the back. Does that make sense? Because I think it really is important in some way to label your quilt as to what it is, even if you created like a little map. And I've seen people do that sort of thing. So you could create like a little map that you printed out on fabric sheet that said, this is what each state is. You could do something like that. Whatever you do, I really suggest that you label the quilt as yours. So write the year on it, write your name. You could say, you know, started and finished in blah, blah, blah. Started in this year, maybe you'll finish in next year. No judgment.
Speaking of
but
which,
putting your name on it is very important.
So obviously the July 4th is the 250th birthday of the United States, and we want to be ready for that with finished quilts.
Yeah.
So with 26 weeks to an average of 2 blocks per week, we get to the beginning of June.
We're halfway through June when we finish.
Halfway through June. That leaves us 3-ish weeks, 2 to 3 weeks to get it all pieced together, get it quilted, get it bound, get it hung on a wall, and be happy with it.
Right. Yeah. Which is why I feel like at this point we can start talking about how it's going to go together, because you could put it all together at the very end and lay everything out. But it would be kind of nice to start at least thinking about it and having a plan in action, even if you didn't piece them yet. Having an idea of where they're going to go, I think will make it a little bit less chaotic at the end, because we will have about 4 weeks that you should be able to have it to get quilted and then be ready to use it or hang it for July 4th, which will be kind of fun. So I'm very hopeful that we can all get them. We can get a lot of them done. So I will reiterate, I'm so thrilled to see your blocks. So thank you for sharing them either on the Facebook group or in the Dream Team community. Both of those are awesome. And I love seeing what you guys are doing because they're all so different. And one of the things about designing patterns is that you design this pattern and you think, oh, I think it'll look really good in these fabrics. And then you make it. And then that's, I mean, some of them, Vermont, I think I have 5. So you can definitely have some variation. But some of them I only have 2 because I've only done 2 of them. And I'm like, okay, so that's what I'm stuck with. But when I see yours, I've now seen 20 variations of that same block in all sorts of different colors and prints and styles. And we get such a kick out of seeing them. So
Hey,
I just want to say thank you.
Is Snoopy Lady in here? Because your fabric choices are awesome.
Yeah,
Like she basically has a bunch of Snoopy fabric that is very patriotic. Snoopy's and fireworks show up in all of her blocks. That's a standout.
That is
fun.
definitely a standout. The other thing
it's
great. I really love it. So choosing a theme I think is really fun because it has definitely been. There's one woman who's in our Dream Team community, Natasha, I believe is her name, and she is doing it all in Liberty of London fabrics, and I thought that was really fun because the whole Liberty idea is great. So this was a fabric that I brought in, if you don't mind pushing it down here. This was a fabric that I brought in because I wanted to show you. This is one that I think a lot of us have bought or a variation of it. There's this one, and then I have this one, which I just saw in somebody else's quilt the other day that have the block or the state's name on it. So these have just the states and then what the nickname is. So this is Missouri, the Show Me State. So you could fussy cut this sort of thing and put it into your block, which I've definitely thought of. Or this one actually has both the states and city names.
The capitals. It looks like the capitals probably. Maybe?
No, because we've got Hollywood, Gettysburg, Newport Beach, Lexington, Birmingham. Okay. Yeah. So all sorts of stuff.
Capitals.
Not capitals. Yeah, Indianapolis 500. So like these would be fun ones to kind of, stick in there in places and just fussy cut them. Or, excuse me, I want to use this on the back of my quilt. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, couple of new questions.
Okay.
Would you guys design us a cute quilt label? Yes.
Yes.
Before we get to the final assembly, one of us will design a cute quilt label that you can fill out. Mm-hmm. No problem.
Yep.
Can do. And then the question was, I assume here, I'll put it up. I assume the flag block will be the last block issued. Yes. What, Teresa? You want to tell us about your ideas about that?
Yes, I have ideas. If you'll get me a glass of or a drink of your tea, I'll be really happy though.
Okay.
Because I've got a little frog in my throat. It's driving me crazy. Okay, so the flag, I actually have started working on that one because it varies. Excuse me, it varies depending on whether you want to do the sashing or not, really, because I'd like it so that it kind of like was part of that. But I will have the flag. And so I've got that one done. I'm trying to figure out how to put it together because that little space is an odd space. We have 13 stripes and I think it's 8 inches tall, which does not divide up nicely. So it ends up being that when I was working on it, it ended up being that you had to cut the strips at like 0.7432 inches to get it to work out. I was like, okay, well, we cut it at 7.5, but then it ends up being, and I don't know if those were the numbers, but like it ended up being that it would either be uneven because the end ones would be too long or the end ones would be too short. We'd have to add sashing, which we could do. We could add another little strip of white on either end. But I think I might end up doing that as a paper piecing one that we do to kind of bring up the next level of paper piecing where we have it on 2 pages, we take them together and then we piece it on there. So we've done the paper piecing where we've had it on 1 piece. We've had it where we put 2 pieces together to create one little section of a block. And then I think this one will be actually 2 different pages that we tape together and then piece together on that so that we can get those stripes to be really even. For me, that's really important. I want that flag to look sharp. I'm also trying to figure out how we can do the flag. And I think we are going to actually like print some little star fabric so that we can get it so that it has the 50 stars, because really, I think that's like a 4x6 section or something like that. I can't imagine trying to, embroider stars on it. You could, but that's kind of the only way that I feel like you could get stars on there. Oh, I say that and I'm like, oh, maybe those cute little 1/4 inch buttons. there are options. I'm always like, oh, what if we?
And some of those options will be ours,
Yeah.
and some of them will be yours.
Yes, for sure. Because there's really like I could probably make 12 different of these quilts and be really happy with each one of them. There's just so many different ideas. So yes, but the flag will come actually pretty soon, probably in a month or so. I'll give you the flag to do because I feel like when you are finished with the state blocks, if you're anything like me, you're just going to want to slam that thing together and be done and be like, yes, I can send it to the printer. So having one more block after that.
The quilter?
Yeah, what did I say?
Printer?
The printer. I'm worried about the printer.
We have to worry about printers.
Yes, you're going to worry about the quilter, but just send it off to the quilter to like finish it up. I want to have all of blocks done at once. So if we have that flag done and the territories as well, they'll get put in there, and Washington D.C., which I think is fabulous. So all of that will get stuck in there, and you'll get it, but you'll get the flag before the very end. Yeah, so you can have that one ready to go, and you might want to use it for something else. So the way that it's done, the sizing might be really cute for on a table runner or something like that. So you could probably use that for other things as well. We'll get that one done. I promise. I've started working on it.
I have a question, just generally speaking,
Mm-hmm.
not to Teresa, actually to you guys. Are you guys going over to her blog and looking at the each state's blogs? The reason I ask is that at the end of this, and we kind of talked about this at the beginning of the or in the live at the beginning, was that after this is all done, we're gonna have 50 patterns, we're gonna have 50 videos, and we're gonna have 50 blogs. And we've been to most of the states in the United States, 48 of the states in the United States. Teresa and I have traveling and teaching and sewing. And many of those experiences are included in the blogs as we're writing them. At the end of this, it's all going to get compiled into a book.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for that. And I just wanted to kind of throw that idea out there for you guys.
Because I spend like 10 hours a week writing them. So. Yeah, they're a bunch of work, but in the end, it will become like a compiled, a much bigger project. So there'll be something at the end that'll be both a quilt block book and a travel book. So I'm looking forward to that. I saw somebody said, can you flip the Alaska block? So that was the question, is can you flip the Alaska block for the flag and put Alaska in the flag spot so the flag will fit? The flag will fit. It's the right proportion.
Sure.
It's totally the right proportion, which was amazing to me, but it isn't an evenly divided. So even if I put it in the 16, dividing that by 13 doesn't work either. So that's the problem, is that it doesn't divide up evenly with the number. So that's why I'll probably paper piece it, is so that we can get those strips to be exactly the same width for each one of them, rather than trying to like fudge it so it's not quite so obvious. So it's not, and the flag isn't square.
Nobody needs to get all Betsy Ross on it right now.
I mean, you could totally get Betsy Ross on it, but it is a very weird measurement that it came up to that I had to like, because it wasn't even like 7.4, it was like 7.31 inches or something, or 0.731 inches. Like it was just a random number that I was like, that is not gonna work. Yeah, I could tell you like, okay, move your needle over this much, and then hopefully you'll get to this size. Like, that'd be terrible. So that is often, we were talking about why I paper piece sometimes, and sometimes it's because those sizes are weird because of how we've divided up the block. So like in the instance of the flag, we're dividing up a, whatever it is, 9-inch, 8-inch block by 13. There is no easy math to that. So sometimes that has to happen. I know on the Arkansas block, that was part of why I did the paper piecing on that, because it doesn't end up a nice even number.
Melanie, I'm shouting you out right now. You're planning on donating your quilt to the Quilts of Valor, and we think that is an excellent notion.
That's really sweet.
Yeah, and also, if you want to leave it hanging on the wall over your couch, that's fine too.
Yeah.
But this would obviously make a lovely Quilts of Valor.
Yeah. And I will say we're all going to end up with scraps from this too, because like I've been using scraps, but I've been having to buy more fabric because I'm like, oh, I need more reds. Oh, I need more of this. Like we have an excuse. So at the end of this, we're going to have enough fabric that we could make up some quick and easy quilts to give for Quilts of Valor. It's a really fabulous organization. I've been lucky enough to get to see the quilts donated a couple times. Most recently was when I was in Colorado at Society. Carol, I believe, is the quilt shop owner's name. And the morning I was there, she was awarded a quilt from the Quilts of Valor. And yeah, it was really
she
special.
is both a quilt shop owner and a veteran.
And a veteran. So it was really, really special to see that and to see the pride that comes from that. So there, it's a really lovely thing to do for both sides, I guess is what I mean. All right. Was there another one? Try to go to the blog.
I think we're basically there.
Okay.
You guys can always reach out to us if we didn't get your question answered. Email us. Yeah. We'll get you caught up.
Can you see if there's anything in the private chat if Audrey sent them?
There is not.
Okay, you would see it. Okay.
I would see it there.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Good. Okay, so that's the bulk of the information. We did pretty good. I'm happy about that.
So.
Just about an hour is what I wanted. I feel like we won that game. All right. So to reiterate, please reach out to me if you have issues. Please look to the Make with Teresa Facebook group or the Dream Team community, which you can find at dreamteam.crinkledreams.com to find out if there have been updates to the pattern. It's very helpful when you let me know, and then I can update you personally. But if 700 people email me, I can't do that. So if I find out about something, I'll post it in those two places. Also, the blog is at teresacoates.com. Patterns are available at crinkledreams.com. And I was going to say, this was the other thing. We have made it pretty clear for most people, I think, at this point, is when we send you that link every week that your pattern has been updated, it is sending you to the product update, which is in your library. So you'll be able to see a little word that says library, and then it'll have everything that you've purchased. But in that product, you'll be able to scroll down and you should be able to see the blocks for this week. Okay, so that library link is the exact same one every single week, which we didn't realize at the beginning. Right. It makes it really convenient for you because if you just save that URL, you can go back anytime and go find the blocks. You don't have to save the email. It's not different from week to week. It's just the same URL. It's your library. Okay. All right.
I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you so much, you guys. I really do appreciate you taking the time to be here. And I'm very happy to do this with you guys. So thanks so much. Happy sewing.